Hey guys, I'm Elizabeth Newsom and welcome to my booktube channel. Today I'll be telling you about my top 5 favorite books from 2018. So again, I know it's quite a ways past New Year's and this is kind of late, but I still don't want to pass up the opportunity to talk about some of my favorite books from 2018. And it was really hard to make a selection, just because I read more books in 2018 than I've ever read before. I broke my record of last year, which was 65, and this year I read 103 books. So not quite double, but we're getting there. And these aren't in any particular order just because they're all so fabulous. Most of the fiction books made me cry, either because they were sad or just because they were so beautiful that I had to cry. Yeah, I know, I'm kind of a wimp sometimes. But I'll go ahead and start off with my first and only nonfiction book, and that's The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins. I read The 5-Second Rule twice this year, and I've never read it before. It was just so phenomenal, and I listened to it on audiobook. Like, the advice is so basic, but it's so profound. Like, honestly, I don't think I could do it justice just talking about it. So essentially the concept is that you count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you do something. Her point is that 5 seconds of courage can change your life. So she did this to get rid of her habit of hitting the snooze button. She'd count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then she'd get out of bed. She'd launch out of bed like a rocket ship. And this is so phenomenal because you can use it for anything. Like, sometimes I'm scared to introduce myself to people or to speak up or ask a question. So I'll count down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then no more thinking, no more second guessing myself. I'll just do it. And again, it seems so simple and almost laughably basic, but it's like, I love it. And I can't get over how incredible it is because it's so versatile that you could use it with anything. And previously, I've read a book by Charles Duhigg called The Power of Habits, and it talks about structure of habits and how we make them, and just knowing that and combining it with this book, it's so obvious how scientifically and psychologically this works. Like, it just makes sense. Because you can never actually destroy a habit. You can only disrupt it with another habit. And this is ingenious because it's a habit that could disrupt any habit. All you need to do is count backwards from 5 in your head. And you could always do that. And this book just inspires me to be more determined and focused about the things that I want to pursue. So yeah, highly recommend it. My next book is the Illuminae files. So really, I loved all the books in this series, and the first time I saw the books, I wasn't that interested because it's like, oh, this is all in third person, and it just doesn't look that interesting because when I read a book, I want to be emotionally involved and engaged. I want to be the main character in a sense. And with a bunch of third person messages and emails, I didn't see how that was going to happen. So anyway, Warren, or Starry Night Reads, recommended the book, and I read it, and like, I cried a lot during it just because it was so intense, and I was scared for the main character. The plot is incredible, and then it's like a huge emotional roller coaster. I forgot if I cried during the second book, but I definitely cried during the third book. And it's incredible how you get attached to the most unlikely characters, even if they're murderous supercomputers. But the writers, they did a great job. Like, just how emotionally attached I was to the story and characters and everything. It was great. My next book is The Last She, and I read this on Wattpad. And just the concept was so interesting. It's in this post-apocalyptic world where there's this virus that's killed like 90% of men and like 99.99% of women. So women are almost extinct to a certain extent. And she's called The Last She because she's one of the last females there. So first of all, I just love post-apocalyptic stuff and this disease that wipes out humankind. Like, how cool is that? I know it's been done a lot, but it's still a story idea that just captivates me. And then this particular disease and the romance and the plot, like, it was just all really fascinating. And honestly, it's probably my favorite book on Wattpad. Like, it's such high quality, amazing stuff that I almost can't believe it's on there. Just because, you know, things that you put on Wattpad are for free, this was a really good book. My next book would be The Scarecrow King. So I've actually read this book before, but then I read it again just before the year ended, and I found that it was just as emotionally captivating and emotional and adorable and romantic as I'd remembered. Like, even though I knew everything that was going to happen, like, it was still just incredible. So in the Scarecrow King, there's this kingdom where everyone has magic, and those with blonde hair have more powerful magic, and those with brown hair have less powerful magic. Like, maybe they can help grow carrots or something like that. So there's this princess who's born with brown hair, while her father and her sister have blonde hair. And then her mother, who was a peasant woman, died, and she also had brown hair. And this girl has the ability, when she pricks her finger and gets her blood on something, to make that item magical or lucky. So if it's a pair of glasses, the glasses won't ever break again. If it's like a floorboard that keeps sticking out and someone's skirt gets stuck on it, she can make it so that the skirt doesn't get stuck anymore. If it's a torch, she can help it burn longer. If it's something she's throwing and she makes it magic, it can help her aim better. But altogether, it's not really significant and powerful like her older sister's magic is. And her older sister has the ability to bring water up from the ground. And this is really valuable for the kingdom because they don't have a lot of good water they can use. Anyhow, this younger princess with brown hair is super spoiled. She's honestly kind of annoying, and it's hard to like her at first, just because she does so many thoughtless things in order to get her father's attention and also just to get her way in general. But at the same time, you kind of have to sympathize with her because her father's really mean to her and he hits her and he's just never really liked her. Which, again, she is a very annoying character. But I think his dislike for her runs deeper than her just being annoying. And then her older sister's like this goody two-shoes perfect little princess. And of course, everyone absolutely loves her. So the king hosts this ball, and at this ball, the two princesses are supposed to select their husbands. The brunette-haired princess knows that her father just wants to marry her off and send her away, and kind of use her as a physical peace treaty between their kingdom and another kingdom. But she doesn't want to be sent away from home. So she turns down all the suitors and she makes fun of them and tells them that, oh, you know, your clothes are orange and you look like a little carrot, or like, ew, you're disgusting, or you're fat like a pig, or wow, you're sweating a lot. Like, she's just extremely rude and unpleasant. And her hope is that she'll be so undesirable that no one will want to marry her and she could stay at home. Well, this king from another country comes, and he's got this big thick beard and stuff, and he's kind of weary and worn from travel and dirty. So she makes fun of him and says his beard looks like an animal stuck to his face and died there. Like, she's horrible. And then her father hits her in front of everyone, and he says that the first man who comes to their gate, he's going to award her to that guy as his bride. So it's this poor minstrel that comes up, and he's really terrible at singing, actually. But he's also really, really, really sweet. So he's the guy that comes, and they get married, and she's so angry. And then they try to load up all her trunks full of dresses and jewels, but they won't fit. So the guy, like, leaves them behind or gives them away to a bunch of the poorer people, and she's just infuriated. But sometimes I think he does kind of prod at her a bit, but he's also really gentle and tender and understanding. And at one point during the wedding ceremony, the princess is kind of sassy and she mouths off, and her father's about to hit her, but then the guy who's going to marry her stops the king and says that even though he's the king, since this woman is going to be his wife, he won't let the king hurt her anymore. So even though she is very irritating at times, he's amazing. Like, oh my goodness. And towards the end of the book, I just started crying because it's so beautiful. Like, there's something about romances like that just, like, gets to me every time. And so, again, I've read this before, and I loved it just as much the second time as I did the first. And then finally, there's the book The Girl Who Could See by Swanson. So this book was given to me at a conference I went to review, and it's a pretty short kind of novella-length book, but just the concept was phenomenal, and the romance was adorable, and it was pretty much everything I could want in a story. If it were just longer, it would have been, like, amazing, just because I wanted to read more. But essentially the concept is that this girl has an imaginary friend that no one could see, but it's actually not an imaginary friend because she can kind of see through dimensions, and it's actually this warrior from another dimension, and he's the last person there. And there's this like creature of darkness taking over his world, and this creature is trying to break into her world and kill everyone there. So this guy is trying to get her to believe that he's real, because she keeps on trying to ignore him, because she keeps on seeing these things from this other world. Like, she'll see a building crash or an explosion or something, because there's this huge bad creature of darkness there. And then she like freaks out in the real world and she drops stuff or throws stuff, or she's a waitress and she gets food on the customers. So she thinks she's crazy and she's just trying to block all of this out. And then the guy is trying to convince her that all of this is real because, hey, if she doesn't believe it's real, then she's not going to stop the monster from breaking into her world, and then everyone's going to die. Anyway, like, mega adorable. Honestly, I need to reread that book too. And I can't wait until this author comes out with another romance, because this one was just amazing. And then as a bonus, I had to include The Baron of Emberly by Tamara Leigh. I think I've read this about 2 or 3 times, but it's like the sweetest, most adorable book ever. I can't even explain what it is. It's just this baron who's in an arranged marriage to this girl who's considered rather plain. And just something about their relationship is so beautiful. Like, he has these kind of night terrors where blood just like freaks him out. But he's a warrior and he has to hide that sort of thing. But there's something about the sight of blood in red that just like makes him freak out. Again, he's very good at hiding it, except as a result, he usually has these terrible night terrors. So once they get married, this girl kind of helps him with that. And they're just so amazing together. Like, I ship them so hard. Well, there you guys have my top 5 or 6 favorite books from 2018. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe, because I post 1 video a week, either about college lifestyle, writing, books, something like that. And I'd like to hear from you guys. In the comments, let me know what were some of your favorite books from 2018. Let me know down below, and I'll see you next time.